Last year the Plimmer family from Hamilton took their 1956 Series 1 Land Rover on the Matariki Forestry Charity fundraising safari hosted by the Whangamata 4WD Club, and since all Land Rovers love to play with their friends, they invited my Series 1 along to have a play in the mud as well. Assembly point for the trip was the Whangamata RSA at 8:30 on Saturday morning.
So my name's Gordy, I'm one of the club members, I'm just a minion. Where's our president? Put your hand up, he's over there. That's our knowledge bankers over there. It's good to see everybody here, and of course, you know, Continental's turned out a fantastic day for us. Is there anybody here that hasn't had their truck scrutinised or doesn't know? But we're splitting you up into two groups. So the yellow group is going to go with Pete. Pete's over there.
The program for the day was to be split up into two groups. The specialist club trucks were in the green team, and the not so specialist vehicles were the yellow team. We all bunched up in our respective groups and headed north for a play in a private forestry block just up the coast near Whangamata. Not sure how comfortable I would have been scratching my way through the tightly packed groves of newly planted pines in my usual safari vehicle, but the entry form clearly stated, "Please be aware this is not a shiny run, and while we are cutting back the bush on the tracks, some bush rash will be inevitable, so please leave your shiny vehicles at home." Words well heeded. Once back on the road, we headed further north to another private forest behind Matariki Beach. Here we wound our way many lefts and many rights to the top of the ridge at around 300 metres above sea level. I bought my Series 1 back in 1984, back when they were as cheap as you could get a four-wheel drive, and set it up as a club truck, complete with a rollover bar, side rails and a sturdy bull bar, as well as underbelly protection. Other than that, the vehicle is pretty well standard, but the bottom line is, the vehicle was specifically set up for the tough clay conditions found on the Coromandel Peninsula, as will be revealed later.
We're going to do it. We should do it now. Yeah, I think they might tear it up quite a bit otherwise, if anybody wants to follow me. Yes, I think those dump trucks are probably going to be a little while. Should we have lunch first?
Following lunch we entered the play area, a boggy bit followed by a steep bit with cut off tree stumps on the slope with a really bad ramp over at the crest. This poor chap was completely bellied out, so when they tried to recover the vehicle it shot around to the right, balancing on the chassis. Some took it slow and gentle, some thought the best technique was to get airborne off the top. Adam and I stood at the crest of the near ridge, watching the vehicles bellying out and discussing strategy. So time for the vintage cars. Let's see how a 65-year-old Land Rover handles it. I mentioned how I'd installed a belly bash plate on my Series 1, how it protected the soft gearbox crossmember from impact. Have you heard of the curse of the black jellybean? Well, yep, Adam King hit a gnarly stump on the slope.
Did you hit it?
The impact crushed the soft crossmember, smashing it up into the bell housing, and it took a chunk out of the aluminium casting. Just looking at it brought tears to my eyes.
Look, Mum, no hands.
The issue that Adam now faced was because the Series 1 has a mechanical clutch as opposed to a hydraulic clutch like most cars. Since the gearbox has been pushed out of alignment, it was now causing issues with changing gear.
Remember that track? There's a big puddle.
Bit of work here. Stop, cover all the logs on the boggy bit.
It's gone through yet there yet. We would.
The Series 1 Land Rover is only an 86-inch wheelbase and is slab-sided, so it's very good in these tight situations. Not sure how some of the larger vehicles got on through this section of the track. Pine trees are not known for yielding under pressure.
Well, I guess would have been.
Where you going, Kevin?
That's strange, we didn't go through the other track with the other guys. Unless that was the green route, but I don't think it was. Do you get paid for making these videos?
I was making for fun.
It's pretty funny.
Oh, it's just something to do.
Sometimes there's very funny pieces.
That's good. This is where the Land Rover does really well because of the attack angle on the front of this. Just drive it straight like that. It doesn't touch it.
Cow.
Wasn't much older than you when I bought it.
Leo's saving up to buy a more spider.
That's pretty neat.
Already nearly got $2,000.
This is the same section we did just after lunch, except in reverse. So really bad ramp over, followed by a steep slope, covered in cut off stumps, followed by a boggy bit and another steep bit.
someone went that way.
You want to try?
I don't think we should. It's fun though. There goes nothing. What did I say? See us,
That's the one coming.
Just to prove you can't get too much of a good thing, we're turning around and doing the same track again.
I think we are. I don't know. Be no one to tell us out if we get stuck.
Won't get stuck. It's metal here.
Having a joke? Oh yeah, there is someone to pull us out if we get stuck. What's your ball? See what he does this time. That's a good idea. He was really. People nearly slid off into that little dip,
Yeah, I did.
and it was full of water.
Like that.
Unless it was a different one. I think it might have been a different one. That was deeper.
It doesn't want to slide that way, does it?
Yeah. And that time we were wet. There we go. That vehicle's stopped.
It was getting late in the day and it was time to part company. Since I was heading north, I slipped out the side gate to State Highway 25, along with the barbecue and the sausage transporters, while the rest of the team went back out south to Opotri. Distance covered during the day was 57.8 kilometres. Had a great Saturday night at the Whangamata RSA. They've got a massive menu, and if you're in Wonga you have to call in. The place was just packed. Sunday morning, some of the group turned up to the Whangarasa to convoy down the coast to Rocket Park on the outskirts of Waihi. Here the Wonga Club handed out spot prizes from the generous sponsors for the previous day's bloopers.
So the red bike is going to lead the tough truck group, and the red Pajero and Prado, and Craig's going to lead the yellow group in his one. Okay, so we're actually going to go up first in the yellow group, give us a little bit of space in front, and then you guys will follow up afterwards in the tough truck group. Okay.
Never been on this road before.
We teamed up again and headed into the interior, turning up Campbell Road and into Waitakere Road, before turning onto a mixed forestry road that went straight up to the tops. With slightly larger tyres and a massive 52 horsepower under the hood, the Series 1 struggled to the point where a quick shift into low ratio was necessary, about halfway up a particularly steep bit.
Still see a couple of trucks that are on the trailers back here, Michael.
We passed the lunch spot marked by busy folk unpacking the barbecue and marquee high in a milled clearing before driving off the edge through cut-over forest into a tight stream crossing amongst regrowth gorse and young pines.
How are we looking down there, Gordy? We got one guy under a truck, we got one guy starting a truck, we got someone having a wee-wee, and we're slowly getting going.
This caused some discussion, observing the various techniques of square on or at an angle, depending on the attack angle of the vehicle. The nuggety little Series 1s just chuffed their way through without drama, while others excelled in drama with much engine revving and mud throwing.
Keep going, yeah.
Go downhill a little bit and you're taking a hard pitch to stay off. What's the chance of getting a different channel? Come on up, little red. Come out.
Be bloody careful doing that. Holding on. Heads closed.
Yep.
About 3 trucks after me, I believe.
I learned how to drive my Series 1 on these greasy Coromandel clay tracks, and I'm fully aware of the total loss of traction conditions, so may explain my comments during our Cape York trip last year, when similar tracks afforded full traction on their vertical hill climbs and descents.
Jamie Alberta. Yeah, this time, no. No.
He used to be in Minnetonka.
Wing truck group now is on channel 32. Right.
Oh, shit.
Jamie, Mike's on channel 32 now. Right.
Looking interesting, some of your big Toyotas.
Yeah. I was just thinking.
As I said, I wouldn't be happy bringing the disco down there.
And now for something completely different.
I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. You said you cared, and you missed me too.
Alas, my 52 horsepower did not prove powerful enough to launch us airborne over the top of the ledge, so an extraction was in order. Adam's Series 1 was soon hitched up to the front as we braced ourselves for the impact, as he had a Series 2 motor in his with an extra 8 horsepower. The bush track at the bottom of the gully, which we are now following, was cut round the hillside for a bush tramway. Back in 1870, Waitakere boasted a 41 head stamping battery, which is really massive. Most Central Otago batteries were typically less than 10. Stamper batteries were used to smash the gold-bearing white quartz rock into dust, so mercury and cyanide could be used to extract the gold from the paste that remained. The remains of the large Victoria battery and extraction plant can still be seen alongside the Hinamuri River opposite the Waikino pub on the Karangahaki Gorge on State Highway 2 before Waihi.
Bounced sideways up to the right.
Hey Kevin, on that side there's a little mine working if you want to have a look.
We crept our way along the old bush tram line, stopping to photograph some of the old mine drives in the hillside. What were once a hive of activity appear a forlorn, forgotten era of the tough pioneering days of this part of the country. We soon came across a split in the road, bog or bypass. Adam and Dale had a quick check of the depth of the bog first. The Prado hit the bog and promptly stopped. Oh, that was short-lived. Some minor sill damage as a result of the clay bank. The difference between rock and tree sliders and standard door sills, I guess.
Said if you hit that, it's going to pull you sideways because they're trying to recover from here a bit further. And once you pull you sideways, the actual door's going to it's going to slow the door in. So I said that you're best off to try and pull him back. And I said, tow him, don't recover him. Just take it slowly and just tow him back, don't recover him.
At the end of the track, the tramway passes through a clay-cut tunnel, which is slowly melting as the entry is being blocked by the collapse of the clay cliffs above. Last year they drove it, but the exit was hardly standing height, and partly blocked by a very soft sticky mound of clay, so it wasn't recommended.
No wonder they've broken the tunnel.
The good buggers at the Wonga Club had done a deal with the other good buggers at Maita 10 and laid on lunch again, covering all the essential food groups: sausages for protein, bread for fibre, onions for our 5+ a day, sauce containing essential vitamins and minerals, fizzy drink for more essential minerals, and even some cookies to put in your pocket for later.
Wrong country, buddy, wrong country.
Does seem odd that we are the only Land Rover on here, though, eh?
Come on, yellow group, keep up.
I'm out on that trip at the back of Faro.
You know, just all the fox club.
Yeah. That's the back of Faro, and the whole track is just solid course, it's completely overgrown, you're actually laying at that.
Fox club. Everywhere.
Really upset over that, losing that. It's just bolt and steel and now bloody quite close to Gisborne. is just a line of pines being planted amongst the natives.
Yeah.
I'm at the top, sorry, Craig. All good, mate. We've got a Land-Rover part way up. Okay.
Just in time for a leftover sausage and bread before we said our goodbyes and headed down to the flats by the road to air up our tyres. This was the first reasonably serious off-roading I had done in the Series 1 for far longer than I care to remember, and loved every minute of it. The basic design of the vehicle and the way it was set up just suited the terrain perfectly. I will try and get some more Series 1s lined up for next year's trip, but with the increasing value of the vehicles, most owners are opting for non-scratchy bits. But this was just far too much fun, Many thanks to the Whangamata Club for organising the trip, and we'll see you next year.